The ACT test will test your word choice in regards to using superlative modifiers. These are words suggesting the most or least of something. In the classroom, I'll tell you what to watch out for on the ACT in regards to modifiers. Okay, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the comparative and superlative modifiers. And by themselves, they're pretty easy, but the ACT's got a couple of different ways that they'll present them that could trip you up a little bit. As a definition, you use the comparative form of an adjective or adverb to compare two things. You form the comparative in two ways. One by adding the suffix er to the modifier, or by using the word more with the modifier. So when you have two things, you're going to use the comparative, which is using the words more or adding er to it. Here's some examples. Of the two books, the one with more action is the one I'll probably read. So you found the word more, that is the comparison, and it works in this one because you have two books. The book with the most action was definitely longer. It was longer, er, than another book. So you have the comparative. There's two examples of where you might see it. Like I say, in itself, it's pretty simple, but in a second here, we'll see if we get a couple of things that might challenge you slightly. Comparative and superlative modifiers. Now, as a rule, you're going to use the superlative form to compare three or more things, stating which one is the most by adding the suffix est or by adding the word most. This is without a doubt the smartest, ugliest, most disgusting portrait ever painted. In that example, we are comparing this portrait to any portrait that has ever been created and seen by this individual. So you have the superlative est, you have the superlative est, and you have the superlative most. All of those are correct uses within this sentence. All right? But there are a couple of pitfalls that I was talking about. The first one is called double comparisons. Some words express absolute conditions in themselves. They don't allow for degrees of comparison. For example, something can't be more perfect or more infallible than another thing. It's either perfect, it's either fallible or infallible. These words can lead to you using a double comparison if you don't watch out for them. Or using both a suffix and an adverb to indicate the comparative or superlative. Let's look at some examples here. My test score will come in more higher than yours. It might be a statement that you kind of hear. It doesn't necessarily sound right, but at the same time, you might not give it a second thought. But why is it incorrect? Well, you have the comparative more, and you also have the comparative er, two in a row. So when you have double comparisons, they're all comparing the same thing, the score, right? Then you have a double comparison. Something's got to change. So my test score will come in higher than yours, would be correct. Another example, the last scene of the film was the most funniest part. Once again, they're both, most and funniest are talking about that scene. So most is a superlative, and est is a superlative. I've got two in a row that are both modifying the same thing, which is scene. So that is incorrect. The last scene of the film was the funniest part. All right, get rid of the double comparisons. So look for that. If you see something underlined and it has the est and it gives you certain choices, find out if there is another word in there that is comparing right before it. You might have a double comparison. That might be the error that they're asking you to find. Another one that fits in as far as common errors is double negatives. This is the use of two negative words together for a single negative idea. Okay, common in everyday speech, not good for writing. A double negative contains two negative words. And if read literally, two negatives equal a positive, so it's the opposite of what is typically meant to be stated. Let's look at an example. We decided there wasn't no point in carrying on the conversation. While you might typically hear that sentence, it's incorrect. You have two negatives. You have contraction for not, and then you also have the word no. So if it's not no, then it must be something. So it gives you the opposite of what is intended. So to fix this sentence, you're either going to remove the contraction or eliminate the word no. There wasn't a point would be correct. Other adverbs like hardly barely or scarcely, they imply a negative, and you shouldn't use them with another one. Even though he has practiced for years, he is not hardly any better than before. Okay, hardly already means that it's low. All right, so it already has a degree of negativity to it. It's just like scarcely or barely. So to fix that one, even though he has practiced for years, he is hardly any better than before. That makes the statement that he hasn't gotten any better. The other, double negative. All right, so you want to be careful with that. Double check when things are underlined. Make sure you don't have two negatives in a row. In review, be careful of questions on the ACT that will have you choose between modifiers. Know how many things are being compared. For 3 or more, use the superlative. And watch out for double comparisons and double negatives.